The coral bikini looked better than Sophie expected. Late afternoon sun streamed through her studio apartment window, painting everything gold. She angled her phone, snapped the photo, and hit send before doubt could creep in. For seconds of relief, then her stomach dropped. The message sat beneath a contact labeled V. Ashford. It's not Riley's name with its dancing emoji. Vincent Ashford, her billionaire boss, the man who'd never spoken 10 words to her in 6 months. Sophie's hands shook so violently she nearly dropped the phone. She tried to unsend it. The technology showed no mercy. 2 gray check marks. Delivered read. She dropped the phone like it burned. Her mind spiraled. Through disaster scenarios. Fired. Escorted out by security. Her tiny apartment she could barely afford, gone. The life she'd built after leaving Ohio. Destroyed, the phone buzzed. Interesting choice for a work communication, Miss Darling. Heat flooded her face. She typed and deleted responses for 5 agonizing minutes before managing. Mr. Ashford, I am so incredibly sorry. That was meant for my friend. It was a complete accident. I understand if you need to take disciplinary action. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared, appeared again. Accidents happen. Though I must say, your friend has excellent taste. Sophie read it 3 times, searching for mockery. Finding something else? Something that made her pulse quicken in a way that had nothing to do with fear. She didn't respond. Couldn't that night? Sleep was impossible. She paced her apartment, rehearsing resignation speeches, calculating how fast she could find another job in New York's brutal market. Morning came too soon. She dressed in her most professional navy blazer and pencil skirt, armor against humiliation. The subway felt like a funeral procession. At her desk, Sophie had barely logged in when the message arrived through the company system. My office now. Her coworker Jessica noticed her pale face. You okay? I have to go upstairs. The executive floor was all glass and steel and expensive art. Vincent's assistant barely looked up. He's expecting you. Sophie knocked with trembling hands. The office was massive, panoramic views of Manhattan stretching endlessly. But Sophie only saw him. Vincent Ashford stood by the window, silhouetted against morning light, hands in his pockets. He turned. Tall, over 6 feet, dark hair slightly disheveled, gray-blue eyes that cut right through her. A charcoal suit that fit like it cost more than her rent. Miss Darling. His voice carried controlled authority. Please sit. Moved to the leather chair, disconnected from her own body. Vincent didn't sit at his desk. He leaned against it, arms crossed, studying her with an intensity that made her skin electric. I assume you spent last night worrying about this meeting? Yes. Sir, her voice came out small. A slight smile played at his mouth. And you probably have a resignation letter prepared in your head. She nodded. 6 months ago. I hired you based on your portfolio from Ohio State. Your campaign concepts showed. Creativity most people twice your age haven't mastered. Every project you've touched has exceeded expectations. Your work on the Patterson account alone brought in $3 million in new revenue. Sophie blinked. She hadn't realized he knew any of that. I don't fire talented people over honest mistakes. He paused, moving closer. The scent of expensive cologne, woodsy and subtle. But I am curious about something. What? Why do you always look at the floor when you walk past my office? Why do you take the stairs when you see me waiting for the elevator? Why, in 6 months, have you never once made eye contact with me during company meetings? Heat rose to her cheeks. I didn't think you noticed me at all. I notice everything in my company, Miss Darling. Ray's gaze was weighted, dangerous. Especially things I find interesting. And you have been very interesting. Sophie finally met his eyes directly. What she saw made her pulse jump. Not anger. Something that looked like hunger. That photo yesterday was meant for your friend. His voice dropped to something quiet, intimate. But now that I've seen it, I find myself wondering something. Barely a whisper, he leaned down, level with her seated position. Close enough that she could see darker blue flecks in his gray eyes. I'm wondering if that mistake might be the best thing that's happened to either of us in a very long time. The air crackled between them. Sophie knew she should establish boundaries. Remember, he was her boss. Remember, this was inappropriate. But all she could think about was how his proximity made her skin feel electric. How his voice sent shivers down her spine. How those eyes seemed to see through every defense she'd ever built. Mr. Ashford, when we're alone, he cut her off gently. Call me Vincent. The intimacy of the request made her breath hitch. This was dangerous. This could destroy her career. But as she sat there, trapped in his gaze, Sophie realized something that terrified and thrilled her. She didn't want to run away. For the first time in her careful, controlled life, Sophie Starling wanted to see exactly where this dangerous path might lead. And judging by the slight smile on Vincent Ashford's face, he was more than willing to show her. 3 weeks of stolen moments. Messages at midnight. Coffee station encounters that looked accidental but weren't. Vincent's hand brushing hers as he passed documents. Eyes meeting across conference rooms filled with people who noticed nothing. Sophie worked late on a Thursday, the office nearly empty. Her phone buzzed. Working late again, Miss Starling? She glanced around before responding. Someone once told me that talent requires dedication. Smart person. Though I hope they also mentioned work-life balance. Are you texting me to lecture me about working too hard? Vincent. And no. I'm texting you because the view from my office feels empty, without seeing you at your desk below. Her heart hammered. She stood, looking up as if she could see through 15 floors to where he sat. Penthouse. Now. Bring. That presentation you've been perfecting. The elevator ride felt like ascending into forbidden territory. When the doors opened directly into Vincent's private suite, she found him by the windows, jacket discarded, sleeves rolled up. Show me what you've got. She walked him through her campaign mock-up, feeling his attention on her. Not just the work. The way she moved, the gestures of her hands, the passion in her voice. It's brilliant, Vincent said when she finished. He stood close now, mere inches separating them. You have instincts that can't be taught. Thank you, Sophie. Her first name sounded precious on his lips. We need to talk about this. About what? She knew exactly what. About how I can't stop thinking about you. How every rule I've ever had about workplace relationships seems meaningless when you walk into a room. He turned to face her fully. About how dangerous this is for both of us, and how I still can't seem to care enough to stop. Vincent, tell me you don't feel it too. His voice was raw. Tell me I'm alone in this, and I'll never mention it again. Sophie's breath caught. She should lie. Should protect herself. Should remember the power imbalance, the risk, the scandal. I can't tell you that. Something shifted in his expression, relief, hunger, decision. Then have dinner with me. Not here. Not as your boss. Just us? That's impossible. Someone will see my private residence, Saturday, 8 o'clock. He pulled out his phone, sent her an address. No one will know. No one needs to know. Not yet. This could destroy my career. I won't let that happen. The certainty in his voice was absolute. I protect what's mine, Sophie. The possessiveness should have alarmed her. Instead, it sent heat pooling low in her stomach. I'm not yours. Not yet, he smiled, dangerous and knowing. Saturday, 8 o'clock. Say yes. Every logical thought screamed at her to refuse. Every careful instinct she'd built to protect herself demanded she'd walk away. Yes, Saturday arrived wrapped in anxiety and anticipation. Sophie changed outfits 4 times before settling on a simple black dress. The address Vincent had sent led to a building in Tribeca. All modern architecture and doormen in expensive suits.
Nice.
Miss Starling, Mr. Ashford is expecting you. Penthouse level. The elevator required a key card the doorman provided. It rose smoothly, opening directly into Vincent's private residence. The space was breathtaking. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Minimalist furniture that screamed wealth without trying. Art on the walls that belonged in museums. Vincent stood in the open kitchen, cooking. Actually cooking. White shirt sleeves rolled up, no tie, hair slightly mussed. He looked different. Less CEO, more human? You look surprised? I am. Sophie set down her purse. Billionaires cook. This one does. I find it calming. Control and chaos. He gestured to the wine already poured. Sit. Tell me something real. Real. Everything at work is performance. Polished, professional. He moved around the kitchen with surprising grace. Here I want to know who Sophie Starling actually is. Not the junior coordinator trying to impress her boss. Sophie sipped the wine. Expensive, smooth. What do you want to know? Why New York? Why leave Ohio? The question hit deeper than expected. Sophie stared at her glass. I needed to disappear. Start over somewhere no one knew me. Vincent stopped cooking, attention fully on her. What were you running from? A version of myself I hated. A life that felt like suffocating. The wine made her honest. I was engaged. Small town, simple life planned out, safe, predictable. What happened? I realized safe was just another word for dying slowly. She met his eyes. So I broke his heart, sold everything, and moved to a city where I knew no one. Where I could be whoever I wanted to be. Oh. Vincent was quiet for a moment. Then, and who do you want to be? I'm still figuring that out. He brought plates to the table. Perfectly seared salmon, roasted vegetables, plating that looked professional. Your turn, Sophie said. Who is Vincent Ashford when he's not being Manhattan's youngest billionaire CEO? His expression darkened slightly. Someone who understands running from the past. But what are you running from? The person I had to become to build this empire. He sat across from her, gray-blue eyes haunted. Success requires sacrifices, Sophie. Sometimes the cost is pieces of your own soul. Is that why you're alone? In this beautiful apartment, with all this success, but no one to share it with. I chose alone. It's simpler, cleaner. No one can hurt you if you don't let them close. He paused. Until someone sends the wrong photo, and suddenly alone feels like the worst decision I ever made. The confession hung in the air between them. They ate in charged silence. Every glance felt like a touch. Every word carried weight. After dinner, Vincent led her to the windows overlooking the glittering city. He stood close, not touching, but she felt his presence like electricity. This is reckless, Sophie whispered. I know. It could ruin everything, I know. He turned to her. Ask me if I care. Do you? Not even a little. His hand came up, fingers tracing her jawline with aching gentleness. Tell me to stop and I will. Tell me this is wrong, and I'll drive you home, and we'll pretend this never happened. Sophie's breath hitched. Every rational thought evaporated under his touch. I don't want you to stop. Vincent's control shattered. He kissed her with the hunger of someone who'd been starving, and Sophie kissed back like she'd finally found oxygen. His hands tangled in her hair. Her fingers gripped his shirt. The city sparkled below them, oblivious to two people crossing a line they could never uncross. When they finally broke apart, both breathless. Vincent rested his forehead against hers. This changes everything, I know. Can't promise this will be easy. There are things about me, about my past. His phone rang. Vincent ignored it. It rang again, and again. With a curse, he pulled it out, glanced at the screen. His entire body went rigid. I have to take this. His voice had gone cold, distant. The CEO mask slammed back into place. Vincent, you should go. He was already walking away. Phone to his ears, speaking in rapid, harsh tones to whoever had called. Sophie stood frozen. The whiplash from intimacy to dismissal, stinging like a slap. She gathered her purse, confusion and hurt churning in her stomach, as she waited for the elevator. She heard fragments of Vincent's conversation. I told you to handle it. I don't care what it takes. Make it disappear. I've worked too hard to let this destroy everything now. The elevator doors opened. Sophie stepped inside, her mind racing. Make what disappear? Destroy what? As the elevator descended, one thought crystallized with chilling clarity. She had just given her heart to a man whose secrets might be darker than she could ever imagine. Vincent didn't call, didn't text. For 3 days, Sophie existed in painful limbo, watching her phone like it held answers. At work, he was ghost. Not at morning meetings. Not in his office when she walked by. Jessica noticed her constantly checking her phone. Waiting for someone important? No. Just distracted. On Wednesday afternoon, Sophie found an envelope on her desk. Thick, expensive paper. Inside, a handwritten note. I'm sorry for Saturday. Come to my office tonight at 8. I'll explain everything. The office was nearly empty when 8 o'clock arrived. Sophie's heels echoed on marble floors as she rode the elevator to the executive level. Vincent's assistant had left for the day. The reception area sat dark and silent. His office door was cracked open. Light spilled through. Vincent. She pushed inside. The office was empty, but voices carried from the private conference room attached to his suite. The door stood slightly ajar. Sophie moved closer, not meaning to eavesdrop, just trying to find him. Then she heard his voice, and every word shattered her world. The investigation is getting too close. If they find the documentation, everything falls apart. Woman's voice smooth and calculating, then destroy it. You've made evidence disappear before, not like this. This is fraud, Alina. Securities fraud on a massive scale. If this gets out, Ashford Media doesn't just take a hit. It collapses. And I go to prison. Sophie's hand flew to her mouth. You knew the risks when you cooked the books, Alina said coldly. You've been inflating revenue numbers for 2 years to keep the stock price up. That Patterson account everyone celebrates? Half those numbers are fabricated. The account Vincent had praised Sophie for. The account that supposedly brought in $3 million. It was fake. I did what I had to do to survive. Vincent's voice was hard. My father built this company on lies. When I took over, the debt was crushing. I had no choice. You always have a choice. You chose deception. I'll choose it again if it means protecting what's mine. Pause. Including that girl. Sophie's blood ran cold. The little coordinator you've been sleeping with? Elena's laugh was cruel. You really think she matters in this? She can't know about any of it. So what's your plan? String her along? Use her as your alibi while we clean up this mess? If necessary. Vincent's words were ice. Sophie's smart, but she's also desperate for validation. For someone to see her. It makes her easy to control. The words hit like physical blows. You're playing with fire, Elena warned. If she finds out the truth, she won't. People like Sophie don't ask questions when someone powerful pays attention to them. She'll believe whatever I tell her because she wants to believe it. Sophie backed away from the door, bile rising in her throat. Every touch. Every word. Every moment she'd thought was real had been manipulation. She'd been a pawn. A distraction. Something easy to control while Vincent Ashford committed fraud and destroyed lives with his lies. Her phone buzzed. A text from Vincent. Where are you? I'm in my office waiting. Her hands shook with rage and heartbreak. She typed back. Got held up. Be there in 5. Sophie took a breath, steadying herself. Then she walked into Vincent's office with her head high and her heart in pieces. Vincent stood by the windows, holding 2 glasses of wine. He turned, when she entered, that dangerous smile on his lips. I was starting to think you'd stood me up. I wouldn't do that. Sophie kept her voice even. You wanted to explain Saturday? I did. He handed her a glass. That phone call was a crisis. A deal falling apart. I had to handle it immediately. I'm sorry I sent you away so abruptly. Lies, smooth and effortless. It's okay. I understand business comes first. Vincent moved closer. Not anymore. Not with you. His hand came up to her cheek. You've become important to me, Sophie. More than I expected. More than I should probably allow. More lies. Every word designed to keep her controlled, Sophie let him kiss her, tasting deception on his lips. When he pulled back, she looked into those gray-blue eyes that had once made her feel seen and felt only disgust. Vincent, I need to ask you something. Anything. The Patterson account. The one you praised me for. Can you show me the actual revenue reports? I want to see what success looks like. Something flickered in his expression. Guarded, careful. Why? Because I'm working on a similar campaign for the Morrison client. I want to study what made Patterson so successful. The files are confidential. Proprietary information. But I worked on that account. Surely I can see Sophie. His voice sharpened. Drop it. Those files aren't available. Why not? Because I said so. No. The mask slipped, revealing something cold underneath. You don't question me. You trust me. Understand? There it was. The real Vincent Ashford. The man who needed control, who used people like chess pieces. Sophie stepped back. I understand perfectly. Good. He softened, reaching for her again. Now forget about work. Stay with me tonight. Let me make Saturday up to you. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to expose him, to burn his empire down around him, but Sophie had learned something in her years of playing it safe and then breaking free. Sometimes the best revenge required patience. I can't tonight. Early meeting tomorrow. She kissed his cheek, sweet and submissive. But soon? Soon, Vincent pulled her close, proprietary and possessive. You're mine, Sophie. Don't forget that. Never. She left his office with steady steps, riding the elevator down with her mind racing. Vincent thought her easy to control, desperate for validation. Someone who wouldn't ask questions? He had no idea. Who he was actually dealing with. Sophie pulled out her phone and typed a message to an unknown number. One she'd found in the company directory weeks ago when researching the corporate structure. I have information about securities fraud at Ashford Media. Are you still investigating? The response came within minutes. A name, an address. At times, Sophie stared at the message, knowing what it meant. What it would cost. Vincent would be destroyed. The company would collapse. She would lose her job. Possibly face legal consequences herself for her unwitting involvement. But justice mattered more than safety. And Sophie Starling was done being controlled. She hit reply, I'll be there the next morning. Sophie arrived at work like nothing had changed. Smiled at Jessica. Made coffee. Reviewed presentations. Vincent sent a text. Missing you already, she replied. Missing you too, at lunch. She slipped out to meet federal investigator Marcus Chen in a coffee shop 3 blocks from Ashford Tower. He was sharp eyes, recorder already on the table. Miss Starling, thank you for coming. Sophie sat down, hands clasped to hide their trembling. I need to tell you about the Patterson account. And about Vincent Ashford's revenue manipulation. We've been building a case for 8 months. But we need someone on the inside. Someone willing to testify. I'll testify. I'll give you everything. Sophie's voice was steel. But I need protection. He's dangerous. And he thinks I'm his. We can protect you. Marcus leaned forward. Tell me everything you know. So she did. Every conversation overheard. Every suspicion about falsified numbers. The late-night phone call at his apartment. Elena's name. The conference room conversation she'd witnessed. When she finished, Marcus sat back with grim satisfaction. This is enough. We can move forward. He paused. You understand what this means? When we arrest him, your name will come out. The relationship will be exposed. It won't be pretty, I know. When you're willing to sacrifice your career, your reputation, everything you've built here. Sophie thought about the girl who'd sent the wrong photo. Who'd been so desperate for validation that she'd fallen for a manipulator's lies. Who'd almost let herself be controlled by someone who saw her as nothing more than a useful pawn. I'm willing to sacrifice everything to make sure he can't hurt anyone else. Marcus nodded with respect. Then we move tomorrow. Be ready. Sophie left the coffee shop and returned to work. That afternoon, Vincent called her up to his office. When she arrived, he pulled her close, kissed her deeply. I've been thinking about you all day. Me too. Have dinner with me tonight. My place. Sophie smiled, sweet and trusting. I'd love that. That evening, in Vincent's penthouse, Sophie played her role perfectly. Let him wine and dine her. Let him believe she was his. Let him think he'd won. As they stood by the windows overlooking the glittering city, Vincent wrapped his arms around her from behind. You're different from everyone else. You make me feel like maybe I don't have to be alone. Sophie leaned back against him, feeling nothing but cold determination. Everyone needs someone they can trust. I trust you, Vincent, murmured against her hair. Completely. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so tragic. Sophie's phone buzzed. A message from Marcus. Tomorrow. 9 a.m. His office. We'll be there tomorrow. Vincent's world would end, and Sophie would be the one who destroyed it. She turned in his arms, looked up at the man who'd manipulated her, lied to her, tried to control her. Vincent, can I ask you something? Anything? Do you actually care about me? Or am I just convenient? His eyes softened in what looked like genuine emotion. For a moment, Sophie almost believed it. You're not convenient. You're essential. You make me want to be better. Such beautiful lies. Then promise me something. What? That no matter what happens, you'll be honest with me. No more secrets. Vincent pulled her close, his voice fervent against her ear. I promise. No more secrets. The last lie he would ever tell her. Sophie arrived at Ashford Tower at 8:30. It's an hour before the federal agents would storm Vincent's office. She needed to see him one last time. Needed to look into his eyes, knowing what was coming. Vincent's assistant smiled as Sophie passed. He's expecting you. Go right in. The office was empty. Then she heard water running in his private bathroom. A moment later, Vincent emerged, hair damp. White shirt unbuttoned at the collar. You're early. His smile was warm. Genuine. Or the best forgery she'd ever seen. Couldn't sleep. Neither could I. He moved toward her. I kept thinking about what you said last night. About honesty. What? Sophie's heart constricted. And you deserve better than what I've given you. Better than stolen moments and secret dinners. He took her hands. I want to go public. Tell the board. Tell everyone. I don't care about the complications. The words should have been everything she wanted. Instead, they felt like knives. Vincent, I know it's fast. I know it's reckless. But I'm tired of pretending you don't matter. His gray blue eyes held hers with devastating intensity. I'm falling in love with you, Sophie. The confession hung in the air like shattered glass. Sophie felt tears sting her eyes. Don't say that. Why not? It's true. Because her voice broke. Because in 30 minutes, federal agents are going to walk through that door and arrest you for securities fraud. The words landed like detonations. Vincent's face went completely still. What did you say? I know about the Patterson account. About the fabricated revenue numbers. About the investigation. Sophie's tears spilled over. I overheard you and Alina 3 nights ago. I heard everything. Vincent released her hands, backing away like she'd struck him. You've been working with the feds? Yes. For how long? 2 days. His laugh was harsh, broken. 2 days. That's all it took for you to betray me. Betray you. Sophie's voice rose. You manipulated me, used me, called me easy to control. You don't understand? I understand perfectly. You're a fraud. A liar. You've been committing crimes and you would have let me take the fall if it protected you. That's not true. Vincent's mask cracked, revealing raw desperation underneath. Everything I said last night was real. What I feel for you is real. How can I believe anything you say? Because I'm telling you the truth now. He moved toward her urgently. Yes, I manipulated numbers. Yes, I broke laws. But I never lied about you. About us. It doesn't matter anymore. Sophie wiped her tears. They're coming. It's over. Vincent stared at her, and for the first time since she'd met him, he looked truly vulnerable. Lost. Something I should have told you. More lies? The opposite. Pulled out his phone, pulling up files, documents, email chains. I've been building a case against Elena for 8 months. She's the one who orchestrated the fraud. She had access to the accounts. She created the false documentation. Sophie's blood chilled. Right. When I discovered what she'd done, She threatened to frame me if I exposed her. Said she had evidence that would make me look guilty. I've been gathering proof to clear myself and take her down. He handed Sophie the phone. She scrolled through emails, financial records, recorded conversations, evidence that painted a very different picture. Why didn't you go to the authorities? Because she has connections. Federal investigators on her payroll. I didn't know who to trust. Vincent's voice was raw. And then you came along and I got distracted. Started caring more about keeping you safe than clearing my name. Sophie's hands shook as she processed the implications. The conversation I overheard was me confronting her, telling her I was done playing her games, that I'd rather lose everything than continue the charade. He moved closer. That girl I mentioned? I was telling Elena you were too important to use as collateral, that I wouldn't let her threats touch you. Said I was easy to control. Said Elena thought you were. I was warning her that she underestimated you, that you were smarter and stronger than she realized. The room spun. Sophie had misunderstood everything, had given the feds information that would destroy an innocent man while the real criminal walked free. Elena's the investigator's contact, Sophie whispered in horror. Marcus Chen. He's working with her. Vincent's expression turned to stone. You gave them everything. I thought I was doing the right thing. You just handed Elena exactly what she needs to frame me and walk away clean. He ran his hands through his hair. In 30 minutes, I'm going to be arrested for crimes she committed, and she'll have your testimony to back it up. A text from Marcus, running 5 minutes early. We're in the building. Terror flooded her system. Vincent, we have to run. Get out of the country. I'll tell them I lied no. His voice was calm, resolved. If I run, I look guilty. And you become an accomplice? Then what do we do? Vincent pulled her close, pressing something into her hand. A USB drive. Everything I've gathered on Elena is on here. Bank records, emails, recorded conversations, proof that she's been stealing from the company and manufacturing evidence against me. Give it to the feds, they won't believe me now. Not with your testimony confirming Elena's version. He cupped her face in his hands. But they'll believe you. What are you talking about? I'm going to let them arrest me. Let this play out. And you're going to take that drive to someone we can actually trust. Pulled out a business card. This is Sarah Morrison, federal prosecutor. Not on Elena's payroll. She's been investigating corruption in the bureau. Sophie's vision blurred with tears. I can't let you go to jail for something you didn't do. It's temporary. Once Sarah has this evidence, she'll get me out. Vincent's thumb brushed away her tears. But I need you to be strong. Can you do that? Vincent, do you believe me? About the fraud? About Elena? About us? Sophie looked into his eyes, searching for deception, for manipulation. She found only raw, terrified honesty. Yes, I believe you. Then this is my fault. I should have trusted you from the beginning. Should have told you the truth. His voice broke. I'm sorry I made you feel like you were just a pawn. You're everything, Sophie. Everything I didn't know I needed. Voices echoed in the outer office. Federal agents. Elena's voice among them, directing the operation. Vincent kissed Sophie one last time, desperate and brief. Go out the private exit. Take the service elevator. Press the USB drive into her palm. Get this to Sarah Morrison. Don't stop for anything. And don't come back here. I'm not leaving you. You have to. Pushed her toward the hidden door in the wall paneling. This is the only way. Trust me. The office door burst open. Marcus Chen and 3 agents flooded in, Elena behind them wearing an expression of cold triumph. Vincent Ashford, you're under arrest for securities fraud. Falsification of financial records? I understand my rights. Vincent's voice was steady as they cuffed him, even as his eyes stayed locked on Sophie. I won't resist. Elena's gaze landed on Sophie, surprise flickering across her features. Miss Starling, what are you doing here? I came to see him. Sophie's voice was stronger than she felt. Before you took him away? How noble. Elena's smile was venomous. I'm sure the investigation will want to speak with you as well. About your involvement with Mr. Ashford. I'm happy to cooperate. Sophie met Vincent's eyes one last time. I want the truth to come out. no matter what it costs. The truth will come out, Alina said smoothly. All of it. They led Vincent toward the door. He looked back at Sophie, mouthing 2 words, "Trust me." Then he was gone. Sophie stood in the office, USB drive burning in her pocket, surrounded by agents cataloging evidence. Alina watched her like a predator assessing prey. "You're free to go, Miss Starling." For now, Sophie walked out on shaking legs, taking the elevator down with her heart in pieces, in proof of Vincent's innocence in her pocket. In the lobby, she pulled out her phone and dialed the number on Sarah Morrison's card. Federal Prosecutor's Office. "My name is Sophie Starling. I have evidence of fraud and corruption involving an active federal investigation. I need to speak with Prosecutor Morrison immediately. Ma'am, if you have information, should speak with the assigned investigators. The assigned investigators are corrupt, and an innocent man was just arrested because of information they manipulated me into providing." Sophie's voice was steel. "Tell Ms. Morrison, I have recordings and financial documents that prove Lena Volkov has been embezzling millions and framing Vincent Ashford. Tell her if she wants to take down the biggest corruption case of her career, she'll meet me in the next hour." Pause. "Then, where are you?" Sophie gave the address of a coffee shop 3 blocks away. "Ms. Morrison will be there in 45 minutes. Don't talk to anyone. Don't go anywhere. Understand? Understood?" Sophie ended the call and walked out of Ashford Tower with her head high. Even as her world crumbled around her, she destroyed the man she loved to get justice. Now she would sacrifice everything she had left to save him. Because real love wasn't about stolen moments and pretty lies. It was about standing in the wreckage you'd caused and fighting like hell to make it right. Even if it cost you everything, Sarah. Morrison was sharp-witted and no-nonsense. Meeting Sophie in the back corner of the coffee shop with the intensity of someone who'd been waiting for this break her entire career. Sophie handed over the USB drive with trembling hands. Everything. Vincent gathered on Alina Volkov. Financial records, recorded conversations, evidence of embezzlement, and evidence manipulation. Her voice was steady despite the chaos inside her. "He's innocent, and I helped them frame him." Sarah plugged the drive into her laptop, eyes scanning files with increasing focus. Minutes stretched like hours. Finally, she looked up. "This is substantial. Bank transfers to Marcus Chin. Falsified audit reports. Communications showing premeditation." She closed the laptop. "But you understand what this means for you. I'll be investigated. Possibly charged as an accessory. Your relationship with Vincent compromises your credibility as a witness. Elena's lawyers will destroy you on the stand. They'll paint you as a lovesick girl who'd lie to save her boyfriend." Sophie met her gaze without flinching. "I don't care what they do to me. I care about the truth." Sarah studied her for a long moment. "The truth is messy. Vincent might be innocent of the fraud, but his methods weren't clean. He knew what Alina was doing and didn't report it immediately. He tried to handle it himself instead of trusting the system, because the system was corrupted. Maybe because he wanted to maintain control." Sarah's expression softened slightly. "Morally gray doesn't mean evil, but it doesn't mean innocent either. I know what he is." Sophie's voice was quiet. "Flawed, damaged, someone who makes questionable choices for complicated reasons. But he's not the monster Elena's trying to paint. And he doesn't deserve to go down for her crimes. Then we build a case. It'll take weeks, maybe months. Vincent will sit in holding during the investigation. You'll be questioned repeatedly. Your personal life will be dissected in court. Are you prepared for that?" Sophie thought about the girl who'd accidentally sent a bikini photo to her boss, who'd been so desperate for validation she'd almost let herself be controlled, who'd run from Ohio to escape a safe, suffocating life. That girl was gone. In her place was someone who'd learned that real strength meant standing in the wreckage and fighting for what mattered. Unprepared. 3 months of hell. Depositions, investigations, media frenzy when the story broke. Headlines screaming about corruption, fraud, forbidden romance. Sophie lost her job, her reputation, her privacy. Reporters camped outside her apartment. Former coworkers avoided her calls. Her mother phoned from Ohio, voice tight with disappointment. "I told you New York would destroy you. New York didn't destroy me. Mom, I'm destroying myself to save someone who matters. A man you barely know? A billionaire who probably used you? Maybe he did it first?" Sophie stared out her apartment window at the city that had become her battlefield. But people can change, and I'd rather fight for something real and messy than settle for something safe and empty. Her mother was quiet. "Then you always were stubborn. Just like your father." It wasn't approval, but it wasn't condemnation either. The trial was brutal. Elena's lawyers attacked Sophie's credibility viciously, painted her as delusional, obsessed, a low-level employee who fabricated evidence to save her powerful lover. But Sarah Morrison was better. She systematically dismantled Elena's defense with bank records, communication logs, testimony from other Ashford media employees who'd witnessed Elena's manipulation. Vincent took the stand in his fourth week of holding, exhausted, thinner, but unbroken. His testimony was devastating. He admitted to knowing about the fraud earlier than he'd reported, admitted to trying to handle Elena privately instead of going through proper channels, took responsibility for his failures in judgment, but he also provided evidence that Sophie's testimony had been coerced through Elena's manipulation, that the junior coordinator had been used as an unwitting pawn in a larger scheme. When asked about his relationship with Sophie, Vincent's voice was steady. "I fell in love with someone who saw through all my carefully constructed walls, who called me on my lies even when it cost her everything, who had the strength to do what I couldn't. Go to the authorities and demand justice, even though it destroyed her career." Especially because of that, Vincent's eyes found Sophie in the courtroom. "She's the bravest person I've ever met, and I will spend the rest of my life trying to deserve her." The courtroom murmured. The judge called for order. Elena was convicted on 8 counts of fraud, embezzlement, and corruption. Sentenced to 15 years, Marcus Chen received 12 years for his role in the conspiracy. Vincent was cleared of the primary fraud charges, but he pled guilty to failure to report and obstruction, given 18 months probation and a massive fine. Forced to step down as CEO of Ashford Media, the empire he'd built was dismantled, sold off piece by piece to cover the restitution. When it was finally over, Sophie stood outside the courthouse in the autumn rain. Watching Vincent emerge from the building surrounded by lawyers, he looked up, saw her, and everything else faded away. Vincent crossed to her slowly, stopping just out of reach. "You waited?" "Of course I waited." "No company, no reputation, no fortune." His voice was raw. "I'm exactly what you accused me of being, flawed, damaged, someone who makes terrible choices. I know." Sophie stepped closer. "I'm unemployed, blacklisted in the industry. My family thinks I'm insane. I have about $3,000 to my name in student loans I can't pay. We're a disaster. Completely. I love you." The words broke from him like confession. "I've loved you since the moment you walked into my office, expecting to be fired, and instead showed me what real courage looks like." Tears streamed down Sophie's face, mixing with rain. "I love you too. Even though you're a controlling, manipulative, morally gray nightmare. Even though you're stubborn and reckless and destroyed my entire world, I saved your life." Same thing. Vincent cupped her face in his hands. "Where do we go from here?" Sophie looked at the man who'd been her boss, her lover, her mistake, her redemption. Flawed and honest and finally completely hers. "I don't know. Somewhere small. Somewhere we can start over. Somewhere no one knows us, and we can figure out who we are without the weight of everything we were." That sounds terrifying. It sounds perfect. Vincent kissed her in the rain, soft and desperate and full of promise. Around them, the city rushed on, indifferent to two broken people, choosing each other despite every reason not to. When they finally broke apart, Sophie took his hand. "Come on. I have a studio apartment with a terrible couch and instant ramen. We can start there." Vincent laughed, the sound rusty but real. A studio apartment and instant ramen. What a fall from grace, maybe, Sophie said, leading him down the courthouse steps toward an uncertain future. It's not a fall at all. Maybe it's finally learning to stand on solid ground. 6 months later, Sophie sat in a small coffee shop in Portland, working on a laptop. Freelance marketing, building a new reputation one small client at a time. Vincent slid into the seat across from her, 2 coffees in hand. He wore jeans and a simple sweater. No expensive suit. No billionaire armor. How's the campaign going? Good. The bakery loves the concepts. She accepted the coffee. How was the interview? They offered me the position, Vincent smiled. Assistant manager at a tech startup? $40,000 a year. Sophie raised her eyebrows. Assistant manager. How the mighty have fallen. Feels more like rising from the ashes. He reached across the table, lacing his fingers through hers. Besides, the pay's not important. I'm not doing it for money. Why are you doing it? Because you make me want to be better. Build something real instead of just successful. His gray-blue eyes held hers with the same intensity that had captivated her a year ago. Because I'm tired of controlling everything and ready to just live. Sophie squeezed his hand. No more secrets. No more secrets. No more manipulation. No more trying to be someone I'm not. He paused. Just me. Flawed and damaged and completely in love with you. That's all I've ever wanted. They sat in comfortable silence. 2 people who'd destroyed each other and chosen to rebuild something better from the wreckage. It wasn't perfect. Some days were harder than others. Some wounds took longer to heal. But every morning, Sophie woke up next to someone who saw her completely and loved her anyway. Every night, Vincent fell asleep knowing he'd chosen honesty over control. Love over empire, and in the end, that was more valuable than any fortune, any reputation, any carefully constructed life. They'd both sent the wrong message, made the worst mistake, but somehow, impossibly, it had led them exactly where they needed to be. Together, honest, free. The end.